4. God's purpose for the male. God designed and equipped the male to carry out every purpose and function he has been given. Many men are still wondering why they exist. Yet the Creator of man did not leave us guessing about who the male is supposed to be and what he is designed to do. In this chapter, we are going to explore God's original intentions for men so that there is no more worry, no more guessing as to their reason for being. We turn again to Proverbs 19:21. For the vital truth, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Many are our opinions of what man should be, but the Lord's purpose is the only one that counts, and the purpose is the key to our fulfillment. What we will be looking at in the male's ideal purpose, what we will be looking at is the male's ideal purpose. This is not where we are right now. Yet God's ideal is what we should be moving toward, and by His grace, we will. The creation of the male man. We first need to remember that God creates according to the requirements of His purposes. In the previous chapter, we learned that God desired to dominate and influence the planet through mankind. And so He created man, the spirit, in His image, and then placed the man in two physical houses, male and female. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him, male and female. He created them. Genesis 1:27. I would like to point out here that since the spirit man dwells in both male and female, we may refer to the male as male man and the female as female man. This will remind us that men and women are both man. This distinction between men and women are physical and functional rather than of their essence. The purpose of man, the spirit, and the purpose of the male are two different things. Although they are related, man was created in God's image for the purposes we discussed in the previous chapter. Male was made to serve the needs of man on earth and to enable him to fulfill his purpose. I'm going to repeat that. Male was made to serve the needs of man on earth and to enable him to fulfill his purpose. The male was made to serve the needs of man on earth. Genesis 2 gives us a more detailed explanation of the manner in which God made male and female. First, He formed the male. The Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living being. Genesis 2:7. The male was made first, and there was an interlude of time before the female was made. There is much we can learn about God's purpose for the male by what the male saw, heard, and learned during this interlude. I'm going to repeat that. The male was made first, and there was an interlude of time before the female was made. The male was made first, and there was an interlude of time before the female was made. There is much we can learn about God's purpose for the male by what the male saw, heard, and learned during this interlude. Remember that the purpose of something determines its nature, its design, and its features. This means that the nature, design, and qualities of males were decided upon by God and created by Him according to what He determined was best for the sake of His purposes. Elements of the male's purpose. The purpose of the male may be summed up as his priority, his position, and his assignment. Priority refers to the man's order in creation and what this means in regard to his reason for being. Position refers to the environment and place in which the man is to carry out his purpose. Assignments means the functions or tasks that the man has been given. Number 1, the male's priority. The order in which the male was created gives us the first indication of his reason for being. Why did God make the male first? It was not because the male was better, but because of his purpose. When you think about it, God really made only one human being. When He created the female, He didn't go back to the soil, but He fashioned her from the side of the man. See Genesis 2:21 through 23. Only the male came directly from the earth. This was because the male was designed by God to be the foundation of the human family. The woman came out of the man rather than the earth because she was designed to rest on the man, to have the male as her support. The male is the foundation of the human family. I'm going to repeat that. The male is the foundation of the human family. The male man is the foundation of the human family. I believe that the foundation of society, the infrastructure God intended for this world, has been misunderstood. We often say that the family is the foundation of society. It is very true that the family is the adhesive that holds it together. Yet God did not start to build earthly society with a family. He began it with one person. He began it with the male man. Remember our discussion of the principles of purpose in chapter 2? Because God is a God of purpose. He planned everything before He began to create, so that when He started digging the foundation, He knew exactly what He wanted and what the completed picture would look like. But He had to start with the foundation. Have you ever seen a contractor build a house starting with the roof? Have you ever seen a guy walk into an empty lot and hold up a window in the air trying to get it to stay? You don't start with the windows. You don't start with the roof. You don't start with the rafters. Likewise, God starts like any other builder. The priority in building is always what you need to do first. You start with the foundation. God's communications to man in the Bible indicate the importance he places on building from the foundation up. What did Jesus describe as our foremost priority? What were we building on? See Matthew 7:24 and 27. He said, in effect, "Now, some of you are building on sand. Your building looks good, but I don't care how good your building looks. If your foundation isn't right, there's going to be a great crash." Paul said, no one can lay any spiritual foundation other than the one already laid. 1 Corinthians 3:11. What, or rather, who is the foundation? Jesus Christ. Verse 11. So, God does not think of foundations in terms of only concrete and water, but also in terms of people. That is why when God began to build the human race, he began by laying the foundation of the male. God placed the males at the bottom of the entire building of humanity. This means that society is only as strong as its males. I'm going to repeat this. This means that society is only as strong as its males. If the males don't learn what it means to be a strong foundation in God, then society is sunk. That goes for America, Canada, Russia, China, all the nations of the world. If the male leaves the home, if the male leaves the home, or if he neglects his responsibility, hey, excuse me, I had a moment there. Okay, I'm going to back up. That goes for America, Canada, Russia, China, all the nations of the world. If the male leaves the home, or if he neglects his responsibility, you have a house built on sand. It becomes very difficult for those windows to stay intact. The rafters rock when the pressures come because the man isn't there. You children of divorce know what I'm talking about. Your mother was a single parent and had to struggle so that you weren't sure what was going to happen to the family. Of course, you are grateful for your mother. You really appreciate what she did, and you thank God that she weathered the storm and got through life. She did well. However, you all suffered the trauma of a missing foundation. When the male man has cracks and faults in the substructure of his life, then the whole building is on shaky ground. Now, men, let's talk. This is the year you must decide to get yourself on solid ground. For as the man goes, so goes the family, society, and the world. Take a look at the condition of our societies and nations. How do you think How do you think men are doing? Let's just have a moment of silence right now. When men have cracks in the substructure of their lives, the whole building of humanity is on shaking ground. I'm going to repeat that. When men have cracks in the substructure of their lives, the whole building of humanity is on shaky grounds. Our societies are in a mess because as the foundation, men have become sandy, uncertain, and unstable. How can you build a human race on a foundation that is full of sand mixed with straw? A foundation is always measured by how much weight can be placed on it. When I was building my house, the architect and the contractor were discussing all these figures, and I got confused. I was sitting there acting as if I knew what they were talking about. They were saying things like, how much weight can the foundation hold? I said, concrete. It's concrete. But no, I found out that they had to calculate things like the height of the house, how many stories it would have, and what the roof would weigh when it was finished. They had to check all these things before they even started the foundation. Why? Because if there are 20 tons weighing on the foundation, they have to put enough reinforced steel so that when the weight sits on it, it doesn't crack. The foundation has to have the first priority because everything else will be built on it. The foundation has to have the first priority because everything else will be built on it. Again, when God made the male first, He wasn't saying that the male is more important than the female. He was saying that the male has a specific responsibility. He has a purpose to fulfill that is just like the foundation. Even though the foundation is important, it's not more important than the other parts of the building. The foundation can't perform all the functions itself. For example, it cannot protect the occupants from the weather. You can walk around saying, I have a $500,000 foundation here. Isn't that nice? Solid concrete? But then the rain comes, the foundation can't keep you dry. Only the roof can. It's the same way with human family. The foundation is crucial, but the rest of the family is essential too. I'm going to repeat that. You can walk around saying, I have a $500,000 foundation here. Isn't that nice? Solid concrete. But then the rain comes. The foundation can't keep you dry. Only the roof can. It's the same way with the human family. The foundation is crucial, but the rest of the family is essential also. Remember that the foundation is often hidden. I don't see the foundation of my house anymore, even though I was involved in the discussion about it and watched it being dug and poured. I know it's there because I saw it being put in. Today, I walk on the foundation all the time, but I never see it. The foundation is meant to be solid, dependable, but not necessarily seen. Many of you men need to live like the foundation you were created to be. Just be there and keep the home steady so that your wife and children can always lean on you and know that you aren't going to crack. Many young boys with absentee fathers, men who are missing either physically or emotionally, are walking in mud instead of on concrete. I'm going to repeat that. Many young boys with absentee fathers, men who are missing either physically or emotionally, are walking in mud instead of on concrete. These young boys are trying to find a foundation for their lives, but there's mud all over them because there's just no place where they can stand on solid ground. Their foundations are missing. Then, when they grow up, they will go out and try to become foundations themselves. The only problem is they were never shown what a true foundation is. When a negative history predicts your future, your present is in trouble. I'm going to repeat that. When a negative history predicts your future, your present is in trouble. I once heard the statement, a young boy becomes a man when his father tells him he's a man. Many young boys never had a father to tell him who they are. I'm going to repeat that. Many young boys never had a father to tell them who they are. The purpose of the male man is to give foundation to the structure of life. I'm praying that God will raise up some strong foundational men who will stand by their wives and stand with their children and be there as a stabilizer. Men whose families will feel secure in their strength. It doesn't matter what your father was. You can be a strong foundation by becoming the man God created you to be. I was speaking about this topic in Barbados recently. A young man said to me, but you don't understand the history of Afro-Caribbean men. I inherited my granddaddy and great-granddaddy's legacy, you know. I said, hold it right there. Whenever a negative history predicts your future, your present is in trouble. Don't come and tell me that you have to repeat your history. What we are about is creating history. We need to create a new history for all our children's children. I'm going to repeat that. We need to create a new history for all our children's children. And then I told him, it doesn't matter who your grandfather was. The important issue is what your grandchildren are going to say about you. I'm going to repeat that. It doesn't matter who your grandfather was. The important issue is what your grandchildren are going to say about you. Solomon said, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Proverbs 13:22. I like that. A good man doesn't think about the past. He thinks about the future. A good man doesn't leave an inheritance of just money and land. That's not the only inheritance Solomon was talking about. He was talking about a heritage, something to stand on, something to lean on throughout life. Maybe when you were growing up, your father left. When things got tough, you think you need to do the same thing. Now that you have a family. I'm going to repeat that. Maybe when you were growing up, your father left. When things got tough, you think you need to do the same thing now that you have a family. Let me tell you, if you have a little boy and you leave, you'll teach him the same thing your father taught you. It doesn't stop. It causes a perpetual cycle of destruction. We have to stop this cycle by getting back to God's manual and getting on course again. Number 2, the male's position. Man's priority in creation not only means that he was designed to be the foundation of the human family, but also that he was the first to be positioned on earth according to God's purposes. He was the first to have a relationship with God, to experience God's creation, and to receive God's instructions. In the garden, the male was placed in the environment in which he was meant to carry out his purpose. Now, the Lord God had planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed, Genesis 2:8. This point is very, very crucial. God put the man in the environment in which he was supposed to remain in order to fulfill his reason for being. What was the environment like? Well, I hope this episode blessed you as much as it blessed me. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching. This was just a sneak preview of our upcoming series for the purpose and design for the male. If you enjoyed today's discussion, stay tuned for our full series exploring God's plan for men and how it impacts our lives. We also have episodes dedicated to women and for the men who love them. So there's something for everyone. We would love to hear directly from the men out there. Comment below to share your thoughts or visit our website at bit.ly/m/getmarriedwhole to learn how you can be a guest on the show. We would love to hear straight from the men. Your voice matters in this conversation. Subscribe now and stay tuned for what's next on Get Married Whole. Click the link in the description to subscribe. You can find us on our platforms as well, TikTok, any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Apple Podcasts. We're on Amazon Audible. Together, let's discover God's purpose for every aspect of our lives. And remember, you are special, unique, and wonderfully made. And above all, you are the apple of God's eye.
Comment, link, send me messages at Get Married Whole, or we're going to have her on again. So, guys, I would love for you to join us on here on the Get Married Whole and let us hear your thoughts and even how we can relate to you. Help us women to understand it and how to respond. But
we want to hear straight from the men.